Hi friends, happy to see you again. Today's video is about resin art for absolute beginners. Actually, I am also new to this art, but I tried my best to research on it and present to you the best that I can. So now, without any further ado, let's get started. Whenever you're doing resin work, make sure to always cover your workspace with a plastic or a cellophane sheet. Resin work can really get messy if you're not careful. Also make sure that your table is flat and even so that the resin in the molds settle evenly. For today's video, I am using resin from MT Resin Arts India. The resin products come in two parts. Part A is the resin and part B is the hardener. The mixing proportion and other instructions are already mentioned on the bottle, but I'll brief you about them as we go along. Resin is a chemical that needs to be mixed in the right proportions. Hence, to get perfect results, it is always good to mix resin and hardener in weight and not in volume. And so we need a weighing scale to get our proportions right. Additionally, we'll need a tweezer, toothpick, silicone or ice cream sticks, and plastic cups or paper cups. And just to give you an idea, these are the different types of molds that are used for resin art generally. Now talking about colors or pigments for resin art, there are four types of pigments that are mostly used. The first category of pigments are mica powder pigments. So these pigments give a transparent look to your project. This is how a transparent bookmark looks like and you can see through it. The second category of pigments are opaque pigment paste, and obviously they give an opaque finish to your projects, that is, you can't see through them. Then come the alcohol inks that work very well with resin. These pigments also give a transparent look to your project. And finally, these are the pearl pigments that give you a shimmery pearl finish. They make your projects look really elegant and beautiful. When it comes to resin art, anything that is water-based does not work with resin. Hence, watercolors is a complete no-no for resin artwork. For embellishing your resin artwork, the possibilities are endless. But for the purpose of this video, I am showing you the products that are widely used. So you can use gold and silver crystal stones, gold flakes, glitter powder and dried flowers for embellishing your projects. Before I start with the project, let me first talk about safety. One thing to bear in mind is that resin is very toxic. So it is very important to take all the safety measures while working with resin. Always, I repeat, always wear gloves and a mask or a respirator while working with resin. Prolonged exposure to resin can lead to respiratory problems. Also make sure to work in an airy and well-ventilated surrounding. Keep your windows open while working with resin. So now let's get started with the actual process. Place a plastic sheet on your weighing scale also to safeguard it from any spilling resin. Set the weighing scale to 0 by pressing the tare button on the scale. The hardener being thinner in consistency, always pour the hardener first. That way it becomes easier to mix. The proportions for this brand is 1:3 ratio. So if I take 10 grams of hardener, I need to take 30 grams of resin. After pouring the hardener, again set the scale to 0. Now pour 30 grams of resin. 1 or 2 grams here and there is absolutely fine. As you can see, the mixture looks slightly cloudy. You will be able to see thick streaks of resin, and so this needs to be stirred really well to get a clear mixture. Stir this mixture for a good 8 to 10 minutes to get a clear and more runny liquid. This is the most important step of resin artwork. If you do not mix well or you do not mix it enough, your resin will not cure properly, which means that your final product will either end up being sticky or liquidy, or it may not solidify at all. So make sure that you really stir it well. Stir in one direction only and also keep scraping the liquid from the walls of your glass as you mix. So now our mixture is ready, but as you can see, tiny air bubbles have formed. So let this mixture rest for about 2-3 minutes till the bubbles vanish automatically. Additionally, we can use a blowtorch or a heat gun to burst the air bubbles while we are working on resin. For our first project, I am taking these 3 bookmark molds. We'll use a sellotape to pick up any dust or glitter particles that may have settled in the molds. I'm not sure if you can see the glitter particles on the camera, but the sellotape has definitely picked it up. For the first bookmark, I'm using the sky blue mica powder. As I had mentioned earlier, mica powders are transparent and you need very little amount of the pigment. So take a pinch of the pigment and stir it well into the resin. Press your paper cup to get a beak so that it gets easy to pour the resin into the molds. Here I'm pouring clear resin at the bottom of the bookmark. Next, put some gold crystal stones on the edge of the clear resin. And now pour the blue resin on the top side of the bookmark. I'm adding some more pigment to get a more denser and darker color. This is done, so now let's keep our first bookmark aside. For the second bookmark, pour clear resin into the mold and begin placing dried flowers randomly. These are some filler flowers that I brought from a local florist. I then dried these flowers at home. You can also get dried flowers on Amazon or from any resin art supply store. Very soon I'll be uploading a video on how to dry flowers at home, so make sure to stay tuned. Next, to fill in the gap and also to beautify the look, I'm putting some gold flakes with the help of a toothpick. For the third bookmark, I am mixing the baby pink opaque pigment in resin. As I mentioned earlier, less is more, so you need very little pigment. In another cup, mix gold pearl pigment. Here also you need very little powder. Mix the pigment well in resin. As shown, pour both the colors in the mold. Now let's keep these aside to cure. As you can see, I have printed some beautiful reading quotes on a transparent sticker sheet. We'll also be using some glossy stickers to beautify our bookmarks. So now let's fussy cut our quotes. Stick the quotes on the bookmark as shown and also stick the glossy stickers around it. Now pour clear resin over this. This process is also called doming because the final product looks raised like a dome after curing. This side view will give you a better idea. Whenever the first layer of resin cures, it always seems to dip in or sink in a little inside the mold. Doming helps to overcome this problem and also gives a beautiful and finished look to your projects. However, while doming, do not pour too much resin, else it will overflow from the molds. Pour resin slowly in small quantity and spread it around with the popsicle stick. This time for curing, I am keeping my projects in a big plastic box. It is important to keep your projects covered so that hair or dust particles do not settle over it. So now comes the most satisfying process of resin artwork, which is demolding. As you can see, resin projects demold very easily. Use a scissor to cut off any edges that are peeking out. A deburring tool is also used for this purpose, but currently I don't have one. How pretty these projects look. Resin work can be so satisfying and you can create completely new looks every time. To enhance the look of your artwork, you can also use a gold permanent marker or acrylic markers to color the edges. Finally, let's also add some matching tassels to beautify our bookmarks even more. So I hope you enjoyed today's video on resin art. I tried to give you as much information as I could. I'll be doing many more resin art videos in the future, so stay tuned. As always, be generous enough to like and share my video. Let me know in the comments which project did you like the most from today's video. Until we meet next time, take care and bye for now.